Good morning and welcome to Carolina Cares, an iHeartMedia production. My name is Tyler Ryan, your host, and a couple of fun guests this morning. First, we're going to talk about two things. Your wallet, yes, your money, specifically college. You have kids going to school. Maybe you're going to college yourself and thinking about, how can I save for it? Plus, what about free money? Well, found money, I guess, really is more the term. But did you know that the South Carolina State Treasurer's Office may have money for you that they're holding on to for you? We'll talk about that. Plus, we'll take a trip to the museum. Yes, it is not going to be nighttime, a morning at the museum. We'll talk about some really cool exhibits coming up, including a new 4D show. And that's one of those shows that you can, you actually become a part of the film. It's pretty interesting. We're going to talk about all that this morning on Carolina Cares. We'll do it coming up next. Stay with us.
Major key alert. Don't ever play yourself. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com.
Stay focused. Now that's a major key alert.
Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Carolina Cares. I'm Tyler Ryan, and you know, there are great men of money that I can think of. I think of Thurston Howell III, Quack McDuck. And of course, we're lucky enough here in the state of South Carolina to have somebody far more astute than either of those two characters watching over, well, the money of South Carolina. That is our State Treasurer, Curtis Loftis. Good morning, sir, to you.
Good morning to you, and thank you for including me in such grandiose company.
Have you ever been compared to Quack McDuck before?
No, the Thurston Howell thing, that was pretty good, though. I remember that as a kid.
No, but the reality is, that's what you do as treasurers. You're mindful of our money, our tax dollars that go in that fund the operations of the state of South Carolina. You're kind of just oversee all that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a funny dynamic. People think, well, these down ballot races aren't all that important. The state treasurer's office manages, invests, and custodies $45 billion a year.
Billion with a B.
45.
In South Carolina.
Yeah. I can't say the names, but certain banks don't make loans until I make my deposits in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's how much liquidity we put into the system,
Sure.
So I got to be careful about talking finance because it'll wear people out. It's one of the biggest operations in the state, and folks just don't know it's there. Now, I've done what I can to raise the profile on it because I think people should know about their money.
Right.
And it's a lot, $45 billion. Think about that.
It's astronomical. We're a state of what, 3 million-ish people?
5 million
5
now.
million.
But it means a lot. And we do have a lot of money, and we need to protect it. We need to invest it. Last year we had record earnings. We invest the excess funds of the state. So like money that's not been spent yet.
Right.
Last year we made about $225 million in interest. And that money gets, of course, respent by state government.
Sure. And I want to make sure that people understand that where, like, our federal government oftentimes runs in a deficit where we don't have enough money to fund everything the government does. In South Carolina, we're running in excess, meaning we've got enough money, we're paying our bills, and we even have a little extra.
That's right. Well, and the money that we make, I have to make a projection every year, give that to the General Assembly and the BEA, and I tell them how much money we estimate that we'll make. And so they allocate that money. They count on it. You may be riding on a road or going to a school or something that came from that interest income. So it's important. We run lots of other programs. We run the state's debt. Mm-hmm. We run the College 529 Savings Plan, which is thought of to be one of the best in the country.
Right.
When I was elected in 2011, it was worth $1.1 billion.
Okay.
Now, 7 years later, it's worth $3.4 billion. Wow. Yeah, so we more than tripled the size of that, and each of those dollars is a private dollar put in by private citizens so that they can save for college. It's a great program, and we're proud to have made it one of the best in the country.
And I want to talk a little bit this morning about the 529. But first, I guess I want to back up just a little bit. I want to talk for a minute about you. I mean, you got elected in 2011. Folks probably know your name. You know, you see ads. And where'd you come from, man? Before 2011.
Right
what
here.
What were you doing?
Right here in Lexington County. I'm a Lexington County boy, born and bred here. Had a business forever. Still own the business, but I haven't been active in it in about 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so I had been working in a charity. I started a small charity. I funded it, and we were out doing charitable work, mainly in the old southern, Soviet Union, mm-hmm. Montenegro, Serbia, Ukraine, right. But also down in Brazil, Bolivia and Haiti. And enjoying myself, came back, just got mad at the guy who was treasurer. He wouldn't show up to work. And because I've been dealing with poor people and aged people and sick people and all that, it struck me that here's a perfectly healthy, intelligent fella, you won't show up for work. Mm-hmm. And the state needs full-time people. And so I knew that the office needed a lot of work. And so I started studying the office, and I had a conversation with him that made me more sure that I wanted to run against him. Mm-hmm. But it was only 2 or 3 weeks before filing date. You know, a lot of people started campaigning a year earlier,
sure,
2 years early.
Yeah. I mean, look at the ads, pop the TV on right now, and you'll know.
I started 3 weeks early. And they said, well, Curtis, you can't win. Nobody's ever beat a sitting Republican in a Republican primary, a statewide primary.
Right.
So not only did I beat him by going out and talking, just telling the truth, talking about money, talking about all the things you're not supposed to talk about. Mm-hmm. And what that tells you is that there is hope out there. We can overturn incumbents. We can run them off. We can change any seat that there is. You just have to want to do it, and we need to. So I of course, you're the dog who caught the car, right? When you win the election.
Yeah, what do you do, right? You're the coyote with the roadrunner.
Yeah, and I still think, what in the world was I thinking? And what I found out was that the office had been neglected just for a decade. We had one CPA. That was it.
That seems like a small team for the size of now. Granted, 11 years ago maybe it wasn't as big, but South Carolina's been a big state for a good long while.
It was almost the same size back then. We had a lot of good people. Don't get me wrong. There's honest people, good people, working hard, but they didn't have the skills for the century we're in now. They were last century skills, and they were ready to retire. So you get it.
Sure.
Some of them had 35 and 40 years. So we started requiring more skills. We started updating software, updating hardware, updating all our policies and procedures. You know, it gets real boring in a hurry because, who wants to be the guy who says, hey, I got all our policies and procedures written down.
Right.
But that's what it's all about. And we've done all that. Now, I don't even know how many CPAs. We've got CPAs and CFAs, and we've got people with their masters in accountancy, masters in public finance. We had half of a lawyer. I mean, I had a great guy, but half of his time was spent lawyering, right. And the other half was the chief of staff. And he got a big promotion, went to become the head of another agency, so we missed him. But now we have 4 lawyers. And to be honest, could use more. Because when you negotiate a contract that is in the billions of dollars, if you're just a little bit off, it can be tons of money, tens of millions of dollars a year. So we renegotiated our banking contract, saved $2 million a year. Every year, credit card, all that kind of stuff. So I'm real happy about it. I don't want to bore people about it, but
sure.
At the Treasurer's Office, we're at the center of everything because we manage the money.
And it's our money you're managing, and that's the biggest thing. It's not your company you're running; it's my company.
That's right.
It's every one of us in the Palmetto State.
It does give me a different perspective because I see things differently. I see things from an economic term. So when I see money that's not spent well or money that's not protected, it really drives me crazy.
Well, speaking with Curtis Loftis, the treasurer here of our fine Palmetto State, you alluded to it a few minutes ago, Curtis, the 529 program. Let's talk a little bit about that. Many of us have got children. Some, like my daughter, is 14. We're starting now to have that conversation about where we're going in 4 years as she becomes a freshman in September. Tell me real quick about the 529.
It's a wonderful program. It works a lot like an IRA. The General Assembly says, Mr. Treasurer, we want you to be the administrator and the marketer. So that's what we do. It's all private dollars. Private dollars pays for everything. Like I said, it works like an IRA. You put money in and you get an instant 7.5% state tax deduction. The money grows tax-free. We put it in an investment plan. You have a say about how you want it invested. It depends mainly on how long before your kid goes to school. If your kid is born today, well, you've got 18 years. If it's 10 years old, you got 8 years. So we take that into effect. We can put you in the age-based investment plan. And so it works out very well. We're just thrilled because Money Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, SavingForCollege.com, all of these folks say it's one of the best plans.
Sure.
I didn't quite finish. I interrupted myself. You put the money in, you get a tax deduction, state tax deduction. The money grows in the investment pool, free of taxes. And then you pull it out, it's free of taxes. So as long as you use it for educational expense. So you beat the tax man 3 different times.
I like that. And the Beatles would be happy with that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody at home's getting that comment. Yep. I know you are.
But you think about it, it's tremendous. So when your kid's ready to go to school, and it doesn't have to be your kid, it can be yourself. I mean, the plan is so flexible.
Right.
So when you're ready to go, you pull it out for educational expenses, and you've got a free ride. Now, not only is it can you go to school in South Carolina, in the state of South Carolina, but at any 2 or 4 year accredited school, but in any of those schools in the country, or about 600 overseas.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I think a lot of folks have a misconception that it's a 529 in South Carolina that can only be used here. So it's good to know. What about online learning? If I'm at Phoenix, an accredited school, Phoenix, or there's I know there's more and more every day.
As long as they're accredited, you can use it. And so what people are realizing is you don't have to pay $10,000 or $20,000 a year to go to a school for 4 years. There are lesser priced alternatives.
Sure.
And if you've got cash, then you're the king of those alternatives.
I love it.
And so it makes a lot of difference. We like to say it helps a kid live the life of his dreams and not the life of debt. And we know, student loan debt is the largest debt in the country now. It's crazy. Crippling people. And so we're just doing our share. So if you don't have one, you go to futurescholar.com. It takes you about 30 minutes to open an account. Mm-hmm. If you can't get it right, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number. You'll find people that you can understand that are very knowledgeable. And if that doesn't work, call me. I'll come out. And we do want to make sure that you get your account.
You always got to put the pot of coffee on. Curtis Loftis will come to your door, knock on it, drink some coffee, and set up your account for you. I love it. I love it. I'm
probably the last person you want to have there. But I'll bring somebody who knows what they're doing, right?
I'll tell you, the other thing I do love, and this is a great program, and I have actually benefited myself, so I can tell you that it works. That's the unclaimed property that you guys maintain at the State Treasurer's office. There's money out there that you may not know you have that you're hanging on to for all of us.
And in some ways, I'm lucky. I'm dealing with the low-hanging fruit because most people, 99% of the people think, well, I don't have any money out there. And I'll say to them, well, we have $550 million in the Treasurer's office, and it belongs to people in South Carolina. It belongs to businesses, churches, charities, Girl Scout troops, radio stations. As you said, you had money there.
People, personal. Yeah. I tell you I got to check.
Especially now with all this electronic banking and account paying and crediting of accounts, people don't know what happens to their money. They think they know, but they don't. Right. And it's proven over and over and over. I deal with very smart people that, like a fellow just the other day, came by and picked up over $900,000.
I'm sorry.
Yep. It was.
How do you misplace 900 G's?
It was stock that was part of a portfolio. It wasn't worth much a long time ago. It got lost from him. And now, when he was reunited with it, it had gained a lot of money. And we have them constantly. We have inheritances. Your aunt comes down from New Jersey. She just thinks you're the sweetest little 5-year-old boy she's ever seen in her life. She says, I'm going to leave him some money. She leaves, some AT&T stock, which back in the 50s maybe wasn't overly priced, right? So now, 30 or 40 years later, it's worth a fortune.
Sure.
And so we get an inheritance. You get, when you left college, you fell in love, and you had to get just as fast as you could to Kansas because that's where the girl came from.
Dorothy, here I come.
Yeah, that's right. You left your cable deposit. It might just be $100. But if you go to the State Treasurer's website and make sure you're on the official State Treasurer's website, there's a tab that says unclaimed property. You just hit that, put your name in. Put in your boyfriends and girlfriends. Put in your mom and dad's name. Put in your divorce name if you're a female. Put in your maiden name. And if it's a funny name, spell it a little bit odd. Because money came to us because it got lost. And sometimes it's just an address or a zip code or a name that got misspelled. Right. And if you think of somebody or a circumstance, we've had money for that. There's the Brown Fellowship Society of Charleston, which is the... After the Civil War, black folks got together, well-to-do black folks got together, and they started an organization that would bury less well-to-do black folks.
Okay.
Well, they did that for decades and kind of didn't need to be done anymore, and we found $15,000 for them. So we've now found the guy who runs that, and he's got to fill out his paperwork, but now they'll go and redo an old cemetery. So it's $15,000. So it's odd things. We had $13,000 for the Girl Scouts in Greenville. We had $6,000 for the Catholic Church and Taylor's. It's just amazing. So go there twice a year and look up everybody you know, because even if you find money that's not for yourself, it's a great phone call. When you can pick up the phone and say, Tyler, guess what? You won't be dinner, brother, because I found you $500. It's a great call to make.
I love it. Curtis Loftis, the state treasurer here in South Carolina. We could talk probably all morning long. We didn't cut you short there, but we'll put links at WVOC. Just look for Carolina Cares. Go to carolinacares.com. Links to our state treasurer and ways to get the 529. Invite him over for coffee. And the unclaimed property truly works. And I honest to God, I did it myself. I know that's a real situation. So, man, we appreciate what you do, looking out for us, the taxpayers here in South Carolina.
Thank you for having me on. It's a great honor.
We'll be right back on Carolina Cares.
Major key alert. Don't ever play yourself. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com.
Stay focused. Now that's a major key alert.
Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Carolina Cares. It's Tyler Ryan. And you know, there are so many really cool places in the Midlands and, of course, South Carolina in general. But one of the coolest places that you have to go, even if you've been 100 times, or maybe the last time we went was on a school field trip, that is the South Carolina State Museum. So much history, so many cool things, and it's not just old. It's not like the old library where everything stinks like old age. There's some really new, cool things happening. Jarid Glover from the South Carolina State Museum joins us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's also actually cool in the museum too, temperature-wise.
They pay their AC bill,
right?
But welcome, man. Yeah, you know, I love museums, but you know, you really people think of museums as things that are a million years old, but man, it is not like that at all.
No, not at all. We actually have a 4D theater, one of the only permanent ones in the state.
Wow.
We just got a new 4D film, Ice Age, No Time for Nuts. Okay. If you haven't been...
what's the fourth D? Explain to me because, you know, you've got, 2D, one dimension 2, you got 3 dimension, we have the glasses. Right. What's a 4D? What does it mean?
So 4D takes real life sensory effects and adds it to the 3D visual effects. So we can make it snow, our seats vibrate, we've got feet ticklers, you might get wet, bubbles, you name it. Senses.
So you're like actually in the movie. The stuff you're seeing is happening right there.
Exactly. We really immerse you into the film.
That is very cool.
It's about 10 minutes long, so it's not too overwhelming, and it's jam-packed full of effects. It's really fun. It's probably one of my favorite ones so far.
Right. And that's Ice Age, No Time for Nuts. Is that open now? When does that open? When
it's open now. You can go to our website, scmuseum.org, to check out showtimes and purchase your tickets. It plays daily, Monday through Sunday. Sunday through Monday or whatever. All week long. Yeah.
Every day you're open.
Right. I need more coffee.
Fair enough. That is really, really cool. So tell me about this. So I know on Friday you've got something else coming up that's really kind of integrating technology. The Paleopalooza.
Right.
Okay. I wrote down the note, but I have not a clue, sir, what that is. If you could explain it to me and our friends listening.
Cool. So it's one of our signature events. We like to have events that sort of coordinate with all 4 of our disciplines. This one is for natural history. Mm-hmm. So we'll have live bird flight demonstrations from wild ambassadors out of Georgia. We'll have a bald eagle there. We'll have live snakes there. All things natural history. If that's something that you or your kids or your family are really into, we'll have stuff throughout the museum all day long, live talks, demonstrations, hands-on activities. Like I mentioned, we'll have, the hawks and bald eagles there, so that I'll probably just watch from inside. So this
is actually happening outside then. It's not so I'm trying to think, are they going to fly around the big shark that hangs? I just wasn't sure.
Right. So we'll have the flight demonstrations just outside the museum. Right. All of this is free with general admission. And we'll also have a cool discount where you can pay $5 and see Ice Age, No Time for Nuts, and our educational 4D film, which is Tiny Giants 4D experience.
And actually, you brought up a very good point. So if I go in, I pay my regular admission to the museum. Is there an additional one for the Ice Age?
Right. So it's an extra $5 to see any of our other attractions like planetarium shows and 4D shows.
Totally worth it, though. I'm excited about getting rained on and snowed on and bubbles. I mean, who doesn't love bubbles, right? Jarid Glover? Good gracious. Speaking with Jarid Glover from the South Carolina State Museum right there on Gervais Street. Right. How many exhibits do you think you guys have? I know it's chock full of you got what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 30 floors?
So we have 4 floors of permanent exhibits that feature art, science, and technology, natural history, and cultural history. But we also have, we'll either have a traveling exhibit or we'll have new exhibits that our curators put together. So right now we have about 3. There's South Carolina and Reconstruction. We have Eclipsing 50, which is an art exhibit on the first floor. And on the third floor, we have a brand new exhibit called Fill in the Gap, which features items that we've acquisitioned within the last 5 years that have never been seen by the public before. So we like to say that every time you visit the museum, you're going to see something different because we like to rotate that stuff out throughout the year.
Now, the big shark's still hanging though, right? Because that's one of my favorite things
Finn's not going anywhere.
All right. Then, of course, and the fake TV station.
Right.
I just let you know, I kind of like one of my favorite exhibits.
Of course.
South Carolina State Museum. How does the museum, I know like with a zoo, the AZA, they work, a lot lot of the zoos across the country and across the world work together. You know, in their world, it's conservation of animals, and I would dare say probably in the museum world, it's conservation of artifacts.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you can't make anything that came from from the 1950s. You can't remake it.
Exactly. So obviously that's part of our mission, to be able to tell South Carolina's story and preserve that story. So when we acquisition items, a lot of the times they don't stay out on the floor very long because we have to take care of it, because we want people to come back, 10, 15, 20 years or even longer from now and be able to experience that same artifact the way it was when we got it. So we like to make sure that we take care of those items. We are also, you have to go through reaccreditation processes every few years to make sure that we're held up to the certain standards of a museum, so that we're taking care of our artifacts and being able to, like I said, just really maintain and tell South Carolina's story through the pieces that we have on display or in the vault.
Who decides what's going to be cool? I mean, how do you get, I don't know if you're getting pitched the idea, or, like I remember a few years ago, the Titanic exhibit that came through, one of my favorites. I love the Titanic, the story, everything. I'm a big sea guy.
Nice.
And I loved it. How do those happen to come to Columbia of all places?
Right. So we have a team sometimes that consists of just our curators. Sometimes we look outside of the museum and we'll bring in an advisory board, and we'll look at some traveling exhibits that might be available either through other museums, the Smithsonian, other larger museums throughout the country. They have an exhibit that is available to be traveled, then we'll look at it, see if we can afford it, if the public is interested in it, and if there's a way to help tell South Carolina's story along with that exhibit. So we like to really sort of add a lot of different elements to it whenever we go look for a traveling exhibit. And hopefully we'll have a new one coming out early next year.
Can you tell us what it is?
No, I can't do that.
Oh, come on. It's like trying to get my grandmother's secret recipe to the spaghetti sauce she made. Come on, Jarid Glover.
But we're looking at some really cool ones, so I'm excited about what we end up deciding.
Can I ask you this? And now I know at least last year, and I think it did the year before, but Oz was an exhibit last year. Is that coming back?
That is coming back. And that's something that we do in-house. And so each year we like to build on it and make it bigger and better. And so this year we want to really put as much work as we can into it, and really add to the effects that we have throughout the museum along with the 4D film as well.
Right. And you show the original way back, the original
That's
1939 version with Judy Garland and all the whole
exactly.
thing. Cackling Witch.
In 4D. That'll actually kick off September 29th, actually. So that's the first time I've said that yet. So you kind of got an exclusive.
Hey, we got breaking story here on Carolina Cares. Just when you think we're a sleepy Sunday morning show.
Right.
Breaking news right here. I really just love everything that the museum has to offer. Like I said, we started off talking about the ancient history, but there really is so much to be seen through the years when you walk in. And I guess I equate like a library. I don't go to a library enough. And every time I go in the library, especially here in Richland County, I'm like, wow, I forget how much cool stuff is in those walls, those floors. Yeah. And, every time I stop by and see you guys at the State Museum, even though I've done through my career, even Columbia, I've been there 100 times. And I still love seeing the stuff, the moonwalk, the actual video, the videos, the audio of history that's right there.
Right. And what's really neat is that most people don't realize that only about 9% of what we have in our collection is actually on the floor. And, throughout the year, like I mentioned earlier, we sort of bring those items out depending on the exhibit that we might have on display. But for the most part, most of our collection is behind vaults or, behind closed doors.
Right.
Because we have to make sure that we're preserving it.
Sure.
So, occasionally if we have a new exhibit, like for instance, Fill in the Gap, which is open, now, you'll be able to see some of those items that we rarely bring out for public view.
Mm-hmm. Have you been there late at night?
I have.
Do you,
or really, really early in the morning.
Do things come to life at all? I'm just curious. My daughter, we were watching Night at Museum. I've got to know, since you're a guy who works there, I must know. These are hard questions we're going to ask today, Jarid Glover.
I have not seen anything come to life, but I have been on the third floor where the store is, and I always forget that the two guys in there start talking to each other, every 15 to 20 minutes or so, because they're playing checkers in the store, and it scares scares the crap out of me. Every time I'm in there and I forget, I'm like, who's talking? And then I realize,
Right.
oh, it's the guys in the store.
Now, you say that, but there is the legend of Bubba.
Bubba, yeah. I have not run into Bubba. I don't want to, but I have, heard stories about Bubba. And he needs to just, stay away from me.
Just stay away.
Yeah.
If you're Bubba. But if you haven't heard the legend of Bubba, Bubba was he didn't work in the museum. He worked in the building, though, back
when
when
it was the
factory.
mill. Right. Yeah. And the story that I've been told is that he was working on the freight elevator. I can't believe I'm telling this story.
It's a great story.
And the elevator was above him, and it came down and decapitated him.
Oh, my.
And so Bubba lives on, his spirit, at least, throughout the museum.
He's much shorter now, though, right? See what I did there?
Just shorter than everyone else. But yeah, I haven't seen him. But I mean, I've heard quite, a few stories from people who have had experiences with him. So
a lot of us have. I've heard firsthand too from someone who not my friend told my mom told me.
Right.
No, there are people who work there who have been at the museum for a long time.
You're right.
Who will look you straight in the eye and said, "I have seen that ghost."
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of scary. It's kind of fun to think about. Either way, whether you're a ghost guy or not.
You're right. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. It's fun to think about. How could there not be all that history?
I know,
How could there not be something in there, right?
Exactly. So, and as you come during Museum at Oz, we do ghost tours. So Bubba is a part of that tour. So you'll hear those first-hand accounts from the volunteers and docents that give those tours.
Real quick, what is entry? And I know you can become a member. Can you give me some prices so folks can decide what they want to do?
Right. So we have different levels of membership, and it ranges from Family Basic to Family Plus. All memberships include free general admission. You'll get tickets to our attractions like our 4D theater, planetarium shows. You get entrance into some of our private events for members, early access to some of our exhibits, like traveling exhibits that we'll have, discounts on birthday parties, the Cotton Mill Exchange, and the Crescent Cafe. General admission ranges from child, all the way up to senior citizen. We do discounts for military as well. So stmuseum.org to purchase any tickets and plan your visit. We're open Monday through Friday. Monday through Saturday, Sunday. Why can't I get that right?
You're just open. Go to the website.
We're open every day.
We're just open. The history. Jarid Glover, the South Carolina State Museum. Great stuff. I really enjoy you guys when you come in. We have a good time talking about history, and it certainly is not a stuffy old place. The museum,
right? Not at all.
All right, guys, stay with us. Carolina Cares is coming right back.
Major key alert, don't ever play yourself. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com.
Stay focused. Now that's a major key alert.
Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
And that is going to just about do it for this edition of Carolina Cares here on iHeartMedia. Great stuff this morning. Curtis Loftis, our South Carolina State Treasurer, talking about the 529 program. Again, that is a tax-free saving program. It can be for your children. It can be for yourself. And I think that's something that maybe people forget, that it doesn't have to be for your child. You can start saving for yourself if you're thinking, you know what, in a couple of years, I'm going to want to go back to school. I'm going to want to get a degree, get a master's, wherever that may take you. And the other piece about that 529 is it can be used for any accredited school, according to Curtis Loftis, in the world. So that doesn't mean just a trip to USC or to College of Charleston or to Clemson. That can be, it can be in Paradise out in Hawaii. It can also be online. If there's an accredited, and that's the key, accredited school online, your 529 money and programming can be applied to that, and you get the great benefits of, as Curtis put it earlier this morning, beating the tax man 3 times. You put it in, you don't get taxed. It doesn't get taxed once there. You pull it out, it doesn't get taxed. So it goes just like that, the 529 and the unclaimed property program. I put my own name in just because I said, this can't be real. There's money out there to the tune of several $1 million, according to Mr. Loftis, that is unclaimed. And a part of it could be yours. We'll put links for you for those programs. And when it comes to the museum, what a fun place. What a treasure. The South Carolina State Museum, certainly not the Stagio Museum you think about when you think about museums, indeed. Thank you so much for joining us this week for Carolina Cares, an iHeartMedia production. We'll talk to you again real soon. Be good to each other.